Hello again. So today I'm going to share what I've learned over the years about lighting a log burner, because it can be a bit fiddly. So this is how I light a log burner. Now obviously you can't just put a match to logs and make it work. So what I tend to do is use some paper. So newspaper is really good to just take the initial flame. We also have some sort of a, what we call it, a sort of a secondary flame catcher. This is cardboard. This is corrugated cardboard. You can save it up. I'll obviously be careful where you save it. You don't want to create a fire hazard anywhere. And this won't light from a match, but it will light from the paper. So that gets that sort of going, and that will burn for longer. And then finally, we have kindling, which I like to use this split up log, and I'll show you how. So a good way to make kindling is either with an axe or one of these log splitters. You can take your log and really you put it in here and you hit it, and it gets smaller and smaller, and you keep going until you get something that's a bit like this. So kind of small and light, fairly easy to light, so nice and thin. You can see that one. So they will light relatively easily. But this stuff will then, again, you can't light it with a match. The paper doesn't really burn long enough to get it going, but the cardboard should burn long enough to get this going. And then once this is going, you can then start adding logs on. The first things first, in an ideal world, you would clean out the ash and you would clean the glass. I'm not going to bother this time. And then we take the paper, we can have chunks of paper or one big block, put that in the middle, but so that I can reach it with a flame. I'll put it all the way at the back, obviously I can't. Next thing is to take your cardboard and you can tear that up into chunks. And what I like to do essentially is to scrunch it up and twist it so you get like these little sort of mini logs. And what I do is I just put them around, a bunch of them around on top of this paper. So once the paper catches, so will this stuff. You can see I've got plenty of that cardboard on there. Now I can start thinking about my kindling. Now you don't have to use this kind of thing. You can buy bags of kindling that are much shorter, bits of offcuts from the garage, whatever. But I find this works really well. And what you do is you start to stand these up in sort of a wigwam shape. Okay, so like you were doing a Boy Scout fire. And the reasoning behind this is that the wigwam shape will allow lots of air to get around. So once it's going, it should really whoosh, and it'll start the thing off quite nicely. If you just put everything into a big pile, the air won't be able to get in, and you'll get strange amounts of burning. And it will tend to kind of fizzle out. And once it fizzles out, what will happen is it'll smoke and smoke and smoke and smoke. But the whole thing's not very hot, so there won't be a huge amount of draw, which means when you try and open the door to get to your fire, to relight it, a ton of smoke will come into the room, which is not ideal. So you can see I'm building that up now. I don't want too much of this because it won't light, but just sort of a nice pattern there. And you can see what I've got there now. That's nice. And what I'm not going to do is add any logs. I'm going to add the logs once this burns, because what should happen, I'll light the paper. The paper will light the cardboard will light the kindling, and once that burns away, it'll start to collapse, and you at the right time, you throw in a log, and that's it going. Now before lighting the fire, quite often these things are cold. You've got a cold chimney, you might well end it with a downdraft rather than updraft if you're not careful, especially when you just light it, you get a load of smoke, into the room it comes. So one useful thing to do, this is a paint stripper, not a hairdryer, a paint stripper, and all you do is you put it in this gap here where the flames go. You can feel there's a gap that goes up into the chimney, and what I do is I heat this up just with this, and I feel this, and when this starts to get warm, that means the chimney's starting to get warmer and you start to get an updraft going up, and that's a good time to light it without the problems of sudden smoke coming down into the room. So okay, I've done that. Chimney's starting to feel warm. So all I need now is a match. Now you can use a blowtorch for doing this, but a match should be suitable, should be sufficient. the match will burn. And then what we do, I'm just lighting the paper at the bottom there. We get the paint burning, the paper burning, and then we're good to go. That's assuming that the paper burns, of course. Let's try again. Right, the paper's burning, and you'll see that the smoke's going up the chimney already because I've warmed it up. And then all we like to do is bring the door shut, and that'll give you like a forced air through it. Now it depends on your stove, obviously. Have it on full blast, and then sometimes that's enough. Sometimes you need to just keep the door open a little bit to get those flames going. You can see the flames are starting to build up now. So the paper has lit the cardboard, and the cardboard will eventually light the rest of it. And you can see that the cardboard's starting to burn now. We're getting quite a good flow through it. And once it really seems like it's going, I will shut this door. As I said, this depends on your stove. Sometimes you can shut the door and it'll work better. Sometimes it'll start to dampen down when you shut the door. So wait till it's really going quite nicely. I might try shutting the door now. And if you shut the door and it starts to go out, open the door again. If you shut the door and it goes whoosh, then obviously leave the door shut. Depends on your stove. But you can see it's taking nice. So let's give it a few minutes now for that wood to really get going. It's been a couple of minutes now, and you can see that wood starting to go. It's really starting to take off. So now avoid the temptation of putting in any logs, because you've still got that pyramid shape and the logs will roll back out, which would be bad. So let that burn a little while until it starts to collapse, and then we're good to put the logs on. A few more minutes have gone by, and you can see the fire's really roaring now. Because we've chopped up a log into small slivers, it's going to burn a lot quicker, because what you want is for the whole thing to heat up as quickly as possible. That way it's much more efficient, certainly in terms of the smoke it pours out and in terms of the heat efficiency. Now the fire's been going probably about 10 minutes now, and you can see that the wigwam shape is starting to collapse. The logs, the little sticks, are starting to get smaller. There's still quite a lot of flames. If I open the door now, what's going to happen is I'm going to get a load of flame coming out the door, and it's going to be quite difficult to get a log in. So I'll give it a couple more minutes, and then we're ready to start putting the logs in. Okay, now it's visibly starting to die down a little bit. So ready to put the logs in. Taking the first log, take a small one at first. Open the door, just let the thing stabilise, otherwise you'll suck a load of smoke into the room, and then gently open the door. Feel the heat off it, and we can start putting in the logs. And that log will now take on the fire, and we should be good to go from here on. It's been a minute or two, and you can see that log's going. So the whole thing is now good for the rest of the night. Keep it fed, should keep going. So hope that was useful. Maybe I'll see you next time.